Here's your wrestling news for April 23rd, 2023, and we're kicking off with WWE, and in just a few days' time, the promotion will begin its biggest ever draft, which Triple H has promised will be a game changer for the entire company. For this to be the case, there will need to be some monumental picks made by the creative team, but if those decisions have been made, the superstars aren't being told. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that several WWE superstars still haven't been told what brand they'll be on this time next week, and there's a ton of confusion within the roster. In the past, WWE has kept their draft picks quiet as they prefer to get the natural reaction from superstars who have been drafted live as the selection is made public to the fans. While Triple H has said that everyone is eligible to be drafted, there are quite a few names missing from the 2023 WWE draft, with many injured stars not being featured on the graphic for the draft. As WWE prepares to embark on a new era under Endeavor, the company looks to get things right with this draft, but we and the superstars won't know what's going on until the draft itself. Earlier this month, Jeff Hardy made his return to AEW after missing close to a year of TV time due to his DUI arrest last June. The charges against Hardy have since been dropped as the breathalyzer test proved to be unreliable, and now Hardy has spoken about his future plans. During a special Saturday edition of AEW Rampage, Jeff shocked fans by saying he feels it's time to retire, but explained that he's retiring from screwing up. Hardy went on to say that he's in AEW to end his career on an extremely high note instead of a depressing low, and said that the future is waiting for him to prevail. Jeff has had plenty of opportunities in wrestling, and some would argue that he's had one too many second chances after finding himself in trouble with the law. Tony Khan said last June that this is Hardy's last chance in AEW, and that another slip-up like we saw in June will be the end of his run. And we can only hope Jeff is able to keep himself clean and indeed end his career on a high note. This week it was reported that Bushiroad had shown interest in signing Naomi, who confirmed that she left WWE in an Instagram post earlier this year. In the report, it was stated that plans for Naomi in Japan fell through thanks to New Japan's budget, as the promotion was hit hard by the COVID pandemic, but that isn't the entire story. In another social media post, the former WWE superstar posted an image from the report with the words "not true" sprawled over it. If Bushiroad isn't in the cards for Naomi, then it remains to be seen where she'll go next, as while she did attend ROH Supercard of Honor, there's been no word on her signing with Tony Khan. Of course, there's always the possibility that Naomi's days in the ring are over and she's ready for something else, but she and Bushiroad were never close to a deal, at least according to The Glow. It was at November's Full Gear event that MJF became AEW World Champion, a title win many felt was long overdue for one of the most captivating stars the company had ever seen. Today marks day 155 of MJF's run with the title, and fans should get used to seeing the salt of the earth with the Big Burberry belt. Taking to Twitter, MJF spoke about his work regimen, saying that he works harder than anybody else and didn't become the best pro wrestler, at least in his estimation, by accident. MJF added that while other wrestlers can be found playing video games and watching animes, he is constantly improving himself and vowed to become the longest reigning AEW World Champion in history. MJF still has a long way to go before he achieves that feat, as Kenny Omega holds the record for longest reign at 346 days, while Jon Moxley's 3 reigns give him the longest combined tenure as champion at 347 days. MJF has proven to be a hit with fans, though some feel his actions, like we saw at Revolution, cross a line. And do you hope to see him become the longest reigning AEW World Champion? Sound off in the comments. Earlier this week, Elon Musk's new Twitter policy saw every verified person lose their verification status, with the only way to get it back being by subscribing to Twitter Blue. Immediately, it was pointed out that scammers willing to pay $8 a month can now impersonate somebody else and look verified, and several wrestlers hit out at Musk's policy. Now it seems that Musk has changed his mind, as several wrestlers have now been given verification status, including Saraya, who said she feels embarrassed that people will think she actually paid. Booker T was confused that his blue checkmark is back, seemingly implying that he didn't pay either, while Lance Storm suggested that Musk is using people to endorse the idea of Twitter Blue, even if they don't pay for it. Now certain wrestlers and other notable figures are verified, all without having to pay a penny to this SpaceX founder, as Musk has learned that things weren't so bad before his Twitter Blue. This August, AEW will travel to the UK for their first international event, All In, which is going to be the biggest show the company has ever hosted. The show will take place at the colossal Wembley Stadium in London, England, and the show got quite the advertising this week during the important FA Cup semi-finals. During the match between Manchester City and Sheffield United, banners for All In and several wrestlers were shown, as Tony Khan plans to bring AEW to the UK, which were derailed by the pandemic, are in full swing. One name expected to be at AEW All In is CM Punk, as his return to the promotion is reportedly happening this June, despite everything that happened both during and after the all-out media scrum. In his infamous Instagram post, Punk branded Chris Jericho a liar and a stooge, and while AEW wants them to work things out, that may not be easy. According to Wade Keller of PW Torch, sources within AEW are not confident that the scheduled sit-down talk between Tony Khan, Punk, and Jericho will help things, and some fear it might make things worse. The report adds that people who have known Punk for a very long time aren't optimistic that the meeting will help, even with FTR serving as mediators during the sit-down talks between the two. While Punk had harsh words for Jericho, Y2J hasn't been silent in this situation, infamously calling Punk a cancer after All Out, and had reportedly been working to prevent his return from happening. Despite this, Jericho is expected to be Punk's first feud back if the Elite wants no part of the Chicago Star, but don't expect the two men to be exchanging friendship bracelets anytime soon. For years, Chris Jericho has hosted his Rock and Rager Wrestling at Sea cruise, which allows fans to travel on the luxury ship while taking in some wrestling matches. While several wrestlers have competed at sea, no contracted WWE superstars have boarded the vessel, but Jericho did have plans for superstars of NXT. On Talk is Jericho, Y2J recalled trying to convince Triple H to allow some gold-branded talent to compete, but it was a concern from Vince McMahon that nixed the plans. He explained, "So I talked with NXT for a while, and then in classic WWF fashion, they finally called me in a group call with about 7 people on it, and took 45 minutes to tell me that they weren't interested. I was like, you could have just said, hey guys, we're not interested, bye. 45 minutes. The reason I found out was that, this is so classic, Vince McMahon doesn't like cruises, because he had just seen the news where I guess there was a cruise where a bunch of people got food poisoning. Something happened where like, whatever, it's not gonna happen on this cruise. I guarantee that. He was convinced that every cruise, people die of food poisoning. He was like, yeah, he's worried that there might be problems with the ship. I'm like, what? He's scared it's gonna hit a f***ing iceberg? We're going to Mexico, it's fine. Perhaps if Vince McMahon hadn't seen that one news report, fans on the cruise would have seen NXT Gold be defended on the cruise, and chalk this up to another bizarre factoid about WWE's executive chairman. And we're ending today with more from Naomi, as the former WWE superstar isn't working with Bushiroad, but recently resurfaced in the world of wrestling. Sean Ross Sapp reports that Naomi was backstage at last night's Game Changer wrestling event, but there's no confirmation on what she was doing there. It's certainly interesting that Naomi was at the show, given that her name has been coming up a lot in the wrestling world as of late for someone who's not wrestled in close to a year. GCW was asked about Naomi's presence at the show, but they are yet to answer, and we'll just have to see where the former SmackDown Women's Champion wrestles next, if she competes at all.